Okay, now learn may have been a stretch. I'm by no means a professional at it, as my background skills definitely still need refinement, but it's clear that I have now been able to implement them into my work, whereas previously I wasn't. Although leaving my backgrounds to be some plain color as most artists do when they're simply just unable to draw backgrounds. So what changed? What exactly did I learn that made such a difference? So that's what I'm here for, to show you exactly how I've learned to implement backgrounds into my work, so you can end this video off with some grounds to work with for your own studies. Now the start here was kind of rough. Like an idiot, I tried to break these images down using values, but in the end, nothing was working and nothing was learned. Why? Well, it didn't take long for me to realize that I was going about it the wrong way. I mean, sure, while you can start with just values, I think it'd be in my best interest if I learned how to draw it first. So I took a step back and tried to restart with the help of Ethan Becker's Draw Backgrounds in 2D Steps video. By the way, from now on, please forgive me if I proceed to butcher names. I'm not really good at speaking, as you could probably tell. Anyways, one of his methods from that video was to take references from Google Maps and try to pinpoint the perspective point. Specifically, the ones that goes off the grid. A perspective point, though, if you didn't know, is a point where objects converge on the horizon line. But I didn't feel too confident applying what I learned, so I had perspective drawing in Photoshop and tips for drawing backgrounds to help me refresh my understanding of the basics for perspective. But even still, I felt as though I needed more to understand. That's where Flow Studio's Composition for Noobs video came in. This helped me better arrange my backgrounds, as that's what composition is. In Jadakar's You Need to Know This to Be Good at Drawing perspective video helped me in advancing my understanding of shapes within perspective. There's a clear pattern here I want you to take notice though. It'll be important for later. In fact, it's after that video is when I really started to implement more perspective grids and perspective points within my warm-ups. It also helped my confidence in understanding perspective points outside of view. Progress was being made, so I added more into my warm-ups, rotating objects within 3D space and manipulating the volumes. This is a warm-up I picked up from Mark Brunette's The Best Exercises You Can Do in Under 10 Minutes video. The warm-ups you do daily will shape your studies, and being able to not only manipulate the shape but also the volume is pretty much a necessity for anything background related. Anyways, I felt more confident in my understanding of shapes and volume, and that was evident. I was going to say that was evident in the difference in my art, but I can't show it here since whenever I try to import the clips to DaVinci, it just shows an offline screen, so let's move on. Anyways, I broke down the buildings into 3D boxes and tried to pinpoint the perspective points of said buildings. This specific technique is why I'm highly recommending you to go watch the Ethan Becker video, as doing this numerous times really helped me understand perspective. Now onto the studies at hand. I like to break the points that I can find through separate colors. Everything just gets really hard to look at when everything's the same color and you can't really study if you don't know what you're looking at. They're also done really roughly and really poorly, but this is a study. It's not really meant to look good. You're meant to learn from it, and that's what I did. Doing this numerous times really helped me understand perspective, and when more confidence kicked in, I took a shot at my own attempt. For reference, this is a piece I did right before the Google Maps studies, and this is my attempt after the studies. While the first piece may look more rendered, I think the second piece has better perspective, so this is a win for me. By the way, if you're confused as to why the legs are so weird looking, this is meant to be like some kind of half goat OC that I just never got to finish. But moving on, after this attempt, I thought it was about time I added more onto my plate with. Now this segment isn't much in quantity or quality, more on that later, but coloring was the hardest part when it came to studying, and it started with Tyler Edlin, 5 Fundamental Lessons for Beginner Artists. What I wish I knew. I knew I wouldn't be able to color the things that are typically within backgrounds if I didn't understand the silhouette, and Tyler's video was what I needed in order to gain some footing on that. And now onto the study attempts that started with the silhouette of a mountain, which from the looks of it was a first poor attempt. For my second attempt though, I used a reference that had a multitude of angles to work with. So that's a plus for me. Don't forget, reference is key, and in my opinion, the quality of your references can be detrimental to your studies. But looking back on it now, I definitely could have done these studies better. Anyways, the outcome was satisfying for me, so I went on to do 2 more studies before I called it quits. Sadly, I did get impatient while doing it. Again, take note of this, but I was dying to apply it to color already, so that's what I did. But not before watching PCAT's Color Theory Explained video. This was probably the most helpful video I watched when it came to color theory, so yeah, I'm highly recommending this one too. Thanks to her, I picked up a more proper way to do color studies. Don't get me wrong, I've definitely done them in the past, but looking back on it now, I know for a fact I wasn't doing it right, so this was a huge step for me in the right direction. So anyways, what you're supposed to do here is pick a reference and pinpoint the color yourself rather than color picking straight from the image. This is meant to help build your understanding of color relativity. PCAT has a whole section of this on her video that goes more in depth explaining, but basically it's how our perception of a color can be changed depending on the colors that surround it. One clearly looks to be a lighter color, right? Well, as you can see, they're the same color. This is color relativity. And so for my studies, I chose food as the topic, as I thought it would be the simplest choice. And it probably was, but it was definitely harder than I expected. Alright, so starting with, I went with a pear, which to my surprise was the second hardest food choice I went with. Excluding the bottom kinda, it was really hard to find like the shifts in color. I also went way too hard into detail when it's better off to stylize it a little bit. You can make it look like the reference while also stylizing, and I think it's best for especially an artist like me that is not good at realism. I also had a really hard time blending things, as you can see with the toast and eggs. But while the blending didn't go well, I think the second attempt came out better than the first. The third attempt though was by far my favorite attempt. The background in the eggshell was done perfectly. To this day, I still like it. However, it's the actual egg within it that I struggled on, especially like the liquid look of it. In fact, I actually stopped and went back on the egg because one, it was looking a little too blue compared to the reference, and two, I got frustrated working on the yolk. But in the end, I did go back on it with one last attempt. Actually, you can see I'm about to pull out a liquid sheet because I was just so confused, but it didn't work. So I just called it a day. Next up, a pair of oranges. As you can see, it worked really well to get the silhouette down first before working on the details. Thank you, Edwin. Anyways, I really like how the first slice of the orange came out, though I had a really hard time blending the darker side of it. But either way, I thought it came out fire, so I started working on the second one. And I think out of the three, the second one came out the worst. But I worked on it quicker than the first one, so I moved on to the third one, which was also quick, so I moved on to the next reference. And I think out of the 4 attempts, this one came out to be the worst. The blending was so bad. I think I used a different brush too, but this was done quickly too. Next up, landscapes. I think I kind of outdid myself here, though what I did struggle on was the background, which ultimately did kind of ruin the piece for me. I was caught up on details in an area that's just too far forward. The next piece I did way quicker than the previous one. However, I did not finish it since I wanted to work on a new piece, which was a big mistake since it led to by far my least favorite piece. I underestimated the complexity of the reference, I couldn't break down the perspective well, and I couldn't blend well either. Just nothing about this piece was good. Which leads me to the attempt that almost made me call it quits. So, remember when I said to take notice of this type of pattern? Well, this is why, because it ended up biting me in the back. All of that time and effort studying put into a singular piece just for said piece to come out horrendous made me stop studying altogether. It, to be honest, felt like I had learned nothing, and it's because of my impatience. My lack of patience led to sorry results and not truly understanding what the professionals were putting down, which is also what probably led to me being stuck in tutorial hell. Tutorials are a godsend for the inexperienced. They were a godsend for me, because while I was learning how to build snowmen back in school, these people were teaching me about understanding anatomy in the finest of details once I got back from home, but an over-reliance of them could lead to what the opposite of what tutorials are meant for, which is learning. Which makes this next part kinda ironic, as it took me one last video to finally pick up those pieces. I'm gonna try to keep this segment short, as I want you guys to go check out the video yourselves, but J Tough Design 3 value study methods to help level up your paintings really helped me tie everything together, as it did teach me the importance of values. The foreground, middle ground, and background within a piece should be separated through clear values. Darker values should be used to draw attention when in contrast to lighter values. So it's often used within the foreground and middle ground, with lighter values being within the background. It's also used to build better color composition in your art. In fact, while the colors you choose are important, you can pretty much choose any color you want as long as the values are good. Jay Tuff's video showed what type of references I should be looking for, how to break them down in not only in values but also in shapes, and even gave me a study schedule to work with. Now with everything that I need, it's time I sat down patiently this time to learn. I did a multitude of these every day. I took a reference, copied that outline because the focus was on the values, and tried to get the shading down using just 3 values. That's right, this was a 3 value study method, and as you're about to see, it worked for me. This was an attempt on my own after a week of doing this, and it came out way better than I expected. I've never done anything like that beforehand, and now backgrounds are the norm for me. All in all, the methods did work for me. Not just the methods shown in Jay Tuff's video, but the methods shown in all the others. It's only when I had the patience to actually sit down and learn them that improvement finally came with it. Since then, I've been able to come up with some really cool ideas, and I came out that year with some really good pieces that I'm still proud of. There's so many more methods that I just kind of glossed over that's shown within the videos that I listed, which is why I made a playlist just for you guys, along with also being in the description. And with that, let's wrap the video up. This is really fun to make, but I'm still new to all this, with this being my first video and all. So if you have any nitpicks on stuff like the mic quality, the editing, or how I read my scripts, then please let me know, as I can't improve if I don't know what to improve on. But if you found this video helpful and you want to learn more like this in the future, then please leave a like and subscribe. The next video I plan on making will be about blenders, so if that's something that you want to learn, then stick around for that too. Though these type of videos do take a while to make, so if you still want to watch more of me after this, then check out my other social, which will also be linked in the description. Hope you learned something after sticking with me for this long, and thank you for watching. Bye.